This one came in on Instagram. Again, that's at Mr. Stu TV on Instagram. Here it is. I'm really frustrated because at the beginning of the year, this student was getting into fights almost every week. Now he's not fighting. Uh-oh. Oh, sneezed. All right, let's try again. This question came on. This question came in on Instagram. On Instagram, I'm at Mr. Stu TV. Here's the question. I'm really frustrated because at the beginning of the year, this student was getting into fights almost every week. Now he's not fighting, but he's cussing constantly and being disrespectful. It feels like we're just trading one problem for another. How can I help him actually improve his behavior instead of just swapping out bad habits? Great question. Again, it's so encouraging to me that these are questions that come up often. These are things that I'm discussing with parents on a fairly consistent basis. And this is one that I talk to about with parents and teachers all the time about this trading one bad habit for another. But I want to encourage you and I want to help give you some peace and maybe relieve some stress that there's actually a lot of progress going on in what you just shared. You said that this student was getting into fights almost every week. Now he's not fighting, but he's cussing constantly and being disrespectful. Here's this idea is a lot of times children or someone will start in one place and then either they want to get to another place or they want to be something different, or we want them to get to something different, or we want them to be behaving differently. And we forget that there's a progression, that there are steps along the way. Many things are not a one-step process. So if you have a child who is getting into fights every week, it's very rare that a child will go from getting into fights every week to just being a student in the classroom who is having no behavioral difficulties whatsoever. It just doesn't work that way. And when I say it like that, it kind of makes sense. That it's not just, oh, stop fighting and stop doing all the negative things associated with fighting and learn how to manage your emotions more effectively and learn how to get along with people better, and now you're just better in the class. Do you see that that's multiple steps along the way? And the first step in that process really is eliminating the physical aggression. In mental health, we monitor 3 different things to see if someone is making progress. And there's a video on my YouTube channel that outlines this even in more detail. But the 3 things are the acronym FIT, F-I-T. The F stands for frequency, so how often something is happening. The I stands for intensity, how extreme something is. And the T stands for time, how long it lasts. So if you look at F, I, and T, the frequency, intensity, and time for this student, if the behavior that you're wanting them to stop doing is the fighting, you've said they're not fighting anymore. So the frequency is 0. Now, if the behavior is getting along with other people, let's look at the intensity. The intensity here went from getting in fights every week to now cussing and being, you say, constantly disrespectful. That's still a decrease in intensity. Now, you do say cussing constantly and being disrespectful. And that will happen a lot of times where if you are trying to manage a disruptive behavior, some of the FIT will come down and some of them will go up. And it's important to watch that as well. So in this case, the frequency and the intensity of the negative behavior are coming down, whereas the time, how long it's lasting, it's sounding like that is happening either longer or maybe the frequency is up, where the frequency is higher, but the intensity and the time are down. For negative behaviors, you want FIT to come down, and for positive behaviors, you want FIT to go up. So in this case, if the behavior is getting into fights, the F, the I, and the T are all down. Now what you can say is, okay, I'd like to monitor them cussing and being disrespectful. It's important to really outline what being disrespectful is, because sometimes you will just be upset and you will call something disrespectful just because you have this perception and you are stressed and upset about this child. That's totally normal, and I'm not saying that it's something that makes you weird or bad, but it's something to watch in yourself. So have a clear definition of what disrespectful means. Is it that they are shouting out in class? Is it that they are calling you names or calling other children names? Come up with that definition of what being disrespectful is. But now it's time to monitor the FIT of cussing and being disrespectful. And let's see if the F, the I, and the T of cussing and being disrespectful can start to come down. And maybe after that, it could be that they get upset and they don't cuss and they're not disrespectful and they're not getting in a fight, but they walk out of class. Well, guess what? That's still a progression, because now it's not being taken out on someone else. Do you see how the frequency, intensity, and time are still coming down? So I see that you are saying it's just swapping out bad habits, but really it's a progression on this continuum of getting in fights every week to getting along with people at school. Getting in fights every week to now just cussing and being disrespectful, to maybe walking out of class, to maybe picking on some people every once in a while, and then they will be able to more consistently be able to just get along with you and others in the school. So it is that progression, and it's important to praise the child for that progress. Maybe they are cussing and being disrespectful, but after all that incident is over, you can say, you know what? But you didn't get in a fight this time. How did you keep yourself from getting in a fight? And call to their attention that, yes, that behavior was still disruptive and it was still not a behavior that you want to see often, but you see how hard they're working and you see that they're making some progress. So rather than calling it swapping out bad habits, look at it as moving along this continuum, and you can see if the child is making progress or if they're falling back by monitoring that frequency, intensity, and time. Hopefully that's helpful. Thank you so much for writing that question in, and be sure to encourage kids, even when they're still being disruptive. Guess what? They're children. They're going to be disruptive sometimes. But praise them for the things they are doing well, and then you'll see more of that positive growth as they see that you see they're working really hard. Kids are doing the best they know how to do, even when they're disruptive sometimes. Thanks so much for that.